And if you follow that history, it brings you up through, the 19th century into modern times. I believe this has everything to do with why they've kicked the Bible out of our school system, along with prayer and a lot of other things.
Okay, but explain this to me. Explain to me how the Illuminati starts forming, secret societies, Masons, groups that don't like the dominance of the Catholic Church, but then we today see the Catholic Church selling the same things that the Illuminati was selling. So how does that intertwine?
It's a complicated history, and you have different people. You have people who believe that the Illuminati was actually formed by the Jesuit order, which was when the Reformation got underway. You have these Bible believers, they're preaching, and then the printing press comes along, and they start, manufacturing Bibles faster than they can be destroyed.
So as a way to control opposition, the Jesuit priest Adam Weishaupt sets it up.
Well, you have the Jesuits were founded to destroy the Reformation, to destroy the Reformers, and those who were opposing Rome. Okay, so they launched a counter-Reformation. And they started getting into academics, and they tried to do it that way. But what was happening was they weren't having success in persuading people to come back to Rome. And a lot of countries were being converted they were becoming Protestant countries, and they were casting off the authority of the Pope. See, because the Pope was a very political figure. If the Pope told a king or a queen or whoever what to do, they were supposed to do it. And the Pope was telling people, go and invade that other country, and you kill those people over there, and I give you the command. And if you don't obey me, I'll excommunicate you, and your soul will be in hell. This is what was going on during the Dark Ages. So more and more countries were saying, no, we don't believe this anymore. We don't believe the Pope has the authority to do that. And they were listening to men like Martin Luther and William Tyndale and Calvin and others. And so the Jesuits had to come up with a plan to somehow or other do something about all of these Protestant kings and queens that were opposing them. Now, there's two different views. There are some who believe that the infidels, that infidelity, which is really what the revolutionaries were about, getting rid of God altogether, just rose up in the midst of all this and decided to get rid of Roman Catholicism, get rid of Protestantism, get rid of all of it, and that's what the Illuminati was about. But then there are others, Alex, who believe because the Illuminati was founded at the University of Ingolstadt by a Jesuit named Adam Weishaupt, and he was a Jesuit priest. And he openly stated that he was going to use the methods of revolution and infiltration and information warfare that the Jesuits had been perfecting from Sun Tzu's The Art of War that they brought from China and translated and so on. And if you read authors like F. Tupper Saussy, who wrote the book Rulers of Evil, Saussy believes that the Illuminati is really a front organization for the Jesuit order. And that the Illuminati, because the Jesuits became so nefarious, they were kicked out of 40 countries throughout Europe. They were kicked out of Japan. The name Jesuit was synonymous with Nazi. Everybody thought, if you met or knew a Jesuit, you immediately suspected him as a deceiver and a spy or something like that. So they had to do something. And so they developed two mottos. One, above all else, not too much zeal, to be more subtle. And they said, let us shun too much light. Let's not put ourselves out there so that anybody will know who we are. We need to go back into the shadows here. And there are some who believe that Weishaupt was an instrument of the Jesuit order who set up the Illuminati as a front organization that could then infiltrate these secret societies like the Freemasons and others and begin to manipulate them to carry out Rome's 1,000-year-old agenda of world domination. When the Jesuits take their oath, for example, they swear in their oath with the Jesuit general. The general tells them, go into all the world and claim all lands in the name of the Pope. He who will not accept him as Christ's vice-regent on earth, let him be accursed and exterminated. And this is why it is said you find Jesuits in every corner of the world with schools and universities and colleges and so on. This is why they have gone into all the world, is to dominate the world for the Pope.
And that's covered in a lamp in the dark. Continue.
Yeah, so and what's interesting is you have all of these secret organizations that will admit, like the Illuminati openly admitted that they adopted their methodology from the Jesuit order, that they studied what the Jesuits did and how they did it. Rockefellers. There's a book written on the life of John D. Rockefeller, how he developed his whole Rockefeller organization around the discipline of the Jesuit order. My wife works for an accounting firm, and when she was going through college, she remembers these big accounting firms talking about how they study the Jesuit order to develop their, systems for finance and so on. There was a guy, Alberto Izaga, like a year and a half ago, who went nuts suddenly over in London and killed his 2-year-old daughter. And it was a bizarre case, but he was like a millionaire finance guy and worked for some powerful company. And when they arrested him, while he was on trial, he was muttering that he was part of an international conspiracy to take over the financial world, and he was working with a secret group of financiers who were using the methods of the Jesuit order to take over the financial world.
Well, I read Heinz Hobel's Order of the Death Set, and it had the Nazi documents where Hitler modeled the Gestapo and his secret police SS off of the Jesuits.
Absolutely. There's a number of books written about that, and we talk about that in The Lamp in the Dark as well. But and that whole relationship, a lot of people are shocked when they learn about, the idea that the Vatican was working with Hitler and that they had a concordat with Germany and so on. But Adrian Hilton, in his book, The Principality and the Power of Europe, the guy who's talking about the European Union, he says the way to understand that is to go back and look at the relationship of the Vatican with Charlemagne. Charlemagne, who was the first Holy Roman Emperor, he reigned over Germany. Okay? So all the way back, 8th century A.D., the Pope crowned Charlemagne as, the first Holy Roman Emperor. And from then on, so many of these European families, if you get the National Geographic documentary Inside the Vatican, and it's during the time of Pope John Paul II, you see all of these royal members of the European families and so on who go to the Vatican and they all bow down and they kiss the Pope's ring, and they venerate him like he's a god.
Well, let's expand on that, because I want to, again, from your research, understand something. We know that the King of England, Edward VIII, was a Nazi, a fan of Hitler, had to escape Germany once the war started. He was from a German family. The House of Windsor is really the House of Saxe-Coburg-Gotha. For those that don't know, why then, if the Vatican was so powerful and setting up this continental empire through Germany and through Mussolini, why then did England and the U.S. turn against them when we know the Illuminists were involved, as your films show, in a lot of the formation of the United States and the Freemasons? If that's all controlled by the Vatican, then why, and we know there was a secret peace treaty now declassified between England and Germany, so why then was Hitler rebuffed? Because it does appear there are some power shifts here. Clearly, Bilderberg is dominated by the papacy, but then it interlocks with the United States, and so do these groups fight sometimes, or what's going on?
It seems, there are different theories that I've read, because that's a great question. It's the one that, sort of drives the research, so much of it. But from the arguments that I've heard, it's kind of like the ordo ab chaos, order out of chaos. You create the chaos, and from that, through the chaos that you've created, you establish your world order. And there are some people who believe that Germany was being used. There are some who even think that Germany was used specifically because it was Martin Luther, who was a German, who from Germany launched the Protestant Reformation.
Well, it was, and we actually know from the Lord Milner group that right after World War I, these are public documents, they said, we're going to finance a war leader, we're going to build Germany up, and then we're going to destroy them, just like World War I. And so it was a repeat of that. That concurs with the research that I've been getting and the theories that people believe that the reason Rome and the Jesuits wanted revenge on Germany, that they wanted to use Germany, if you will,
as this kind of, instrument of destruction was partly revenge for the Reformation, because it was from Germany